Alright, hey guys, I'm back again. This is part 2 of talking about velocity for developers, how we can figure out how long it's going to take for us to get done with projects. I apologize for the last one. I was in the middle of making part 1 whenever my phone decided to tell me that I'm out of space. My fault. Should have been paying attention. But hey, it's over. So be it. So now, where I left off, I was talking about how this is important, what this does for dev teams, and what it does for our hiring teams, how we can justify that we need another developer. So let's say on average we're able to get 6 points of velocity done per sprint, or not per sprint, per developer per sprint. Okay? Well, that makes it really easy for the business or to come in and say, hey, business, you want us to get more done. And here we go. I can give you a, what is that called? A metric that can accurately show that if you give us another developer, we could get 6 more points of work done per sprint. That's great. Without that information, it's really tough to go to the product team, or not the product team, the business, and argue to get another developer because you don't have that metric. So it's really helpful. So some other things you can do with this velocity. So that's one way you can get those measurements. That's helpful for the business. Now, your manager and you personally, you're going to try to find ways to increase your velocity. Become more efficient at getting things done. It's actually kind of a tricky one, because the better you become as a developer and the more familiar you become with the system you're working on, whenever tasks are presented to work on, you will start actually scoring those with lower velocity points, because you're more familiar with the system and you know how to get in there and fix or add certain features more efficiently. So your velocity actually shouldn't swing too much. The only time the velocity ever changes is if you are adding or removing teammates to your team. I hope that makes sense. That was confusing to me for a long time, that like, how can you improve your velocity speed? Really, that number should never change, because we become better developers, and so the tasks become less difficult to do, so they are estimated at a lower velocity. Okay, cool. So that we were talking about 2-week sprints. We're talking about velocity, how that impacts us, how that affects the business. Let's talk about what else happens with these sprints. So every day, whenever you get a sprint, you're in a sprint, you talk about what you worked on the previous day, what you're going to be working on that day, and if you have any blockers. Development's really interesting. I think just our culture in general is changing to be more collaborative than competitive. I don't know what it is. Somebody told me that's just the generations, or the previous generations were all about competition. That's what drove success. The current generation is now more into, hey, let's work together. If 1 + 1 is 3, kind of thing, synergy type thing. So anyways, so as a developer, we're way more collaborative. We need to be. So that's why it's very important for us to talk about what we worked on the previous day, what we're doing today, and if we're blocked. That if we're blocked is important. I firmly believe that we need to struggle on a task and to give ourselves time to grow before we reach for help. Spending about a half hour being stuck on a specific problem is the growth time for us. That forces us to learn how to Google search better for answers. That forces us to think of alternative solutions. So that's super important. But after that 30 minutes of struggle time and you can't figure it out, it's time to post a Slack message, reach out to some other developers, get some help. Because if not, you're starting to waste company time. That's the truth. if another developer can come in and go, oh, you're missing a comma. Oh, okay, well, great. That's another pair of eyes. It just saved you a whole bunch of time. Do that. So yes, struggle before you ask for help, and then get help after a certain amount of time. All right, cool. Anyways, that's a stand-up. That's a perfect time to report if you're stuck, what's happening, and it gives the team some more insight on what you're working on. So now that you have pulled in these points for the sprint, you do your stand-up, you're working through them, you're completing tasks, you're making it through the ringer. Great, things are going. And now it's getting towards the end of the sprint. What in the world do you do? What do developers do? Well, as a developer, I talked about this in a previous vlog, we need to constantly be sharpening the axe. What that means is we need to be staying up to date with new technologies, new trends coming out, and making sure that we know what's happening and becoming good and skilled at our profession. So as tasks are finishing up and there's no more tickets to work on, everyone else is being helped, it's a good time to slow things down and go and start practicing. Start reading some Medium articles, go do some tutorials, just learn something new. Because that's going to benefit the business. It helps you become a better developer. So yeah, everyone's going to appreciate if you just take the time to go become better at something. A good business will recognize this and understand that we need time to go and improve our skills, and they will allow that time. Google is a company that I'm aware that does this, and I know there's tons of others, but they're the one who comes to mind first. They have the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your time you will be working on something that the business is deemed worthy to be worked on, that's approved and sanctioned. The other 20% is allocated to you to go improve your skills, become a better developer. I find that crazy important. Whenever I'm working with a new developer and they are wanting to learn how to improve their skills, what I tell them to do is the best thing you can do is to go and build something. Pick a personal project, find something that you're passionate about. For me, I like playing games, and so I like to build tools around games. One thing that I built was a matchmaking system to help you find other players to play games with. I thought that was interesting, and I was learning AngularJS at the time, and I wanted to learn how to make iOS and Android apps. And so I picked up Cordova and Ionic, and I used those technologies to build, and that slingshotted me in my career. That's just because I wanted to learn it, and I liked games, and I wanted to build a matchmaking system. Same thing that we should be doing. Anyways, I'm getting off topic about talking about velocity, team sprints. Okay, so at the end of every sprint, before you kick off the next one, you do something called a retro. That's how you review the previous sprint. You try to identify things that went well, and things that didn't go so well, and what can we do better. Things that have come up in our sprints is like, all right, things that didn't go well. What stopped us from being as productive by achieving a little bit better velocity? That one of the things was, hey, we released code, it got out through all of our tests, made it into production, and it was buggy. We found a bug. And so some of the developers had to stop the tasks they're working on and had to work on unexpected work. So that slowed us down. Okay, and then we would talk about, okay, how do we make that better so we don't get slowed down, that won't impact our velocity. So we'll come up with solutions like, okay, we need to add some more automated tests around this. Did we not write tests? Were the tests insufficient? How did it get past the dev checks, the peer review? And we identify those things, and then we come up with something that we want to implement, and then we stick that in for the next sprint. Also, something that's really cool and unique that I highly encourage all companies to do this, is every sprint, try something new. And it doesn't have to stick. It's not gospel at that point. It's just a new idea that you guys are trying out just to see if it's going to work. Try something out new. Like, what did we do? One sprint, we're like, hey guys, let's move our stand-ups to 10 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. Let's see if that makes it better for everyone to come in and match up with our times, be a little bit more flexible. Ended up being not the greatest thing, so we adjusted it back to 9. We tried where, hey, code requires at least 3 people to review it instead of 2. Turns out not as big of a deal. And it was good, but it slowed it down. Waiting for 3 people to review your code was taking too long, and so we scrapped that idea and moved to going back to 2 thumbs. So anyways, I highly encourage every developer group to implement something like this, a trial basis of new ideas. Cool. Then you talk about what went well. Hey, we tried out the new idea that we tried from last sprint. We tried it this sprint. Here's how it worked. Did we like it? Great. Let's continue doing it. You can call out personal victories, like, guys, we were able to reduce our code base. Instead of sending a meg for our website to the client, now we're only sending 500K. That's amazing. Take time to celebrate. That's great. I want to do another episode later about talking about responsibilities by all victories should be a we victory, and any failures you need to be able to take a personal account. It's good to do we, but a good way to look at it is, hey, it was my fault, I will fix it. More accountability. Anyways, that'll be a different episode. We'll talk about that later. Okay, cool. So that's a sprint. And then after that, you start adding the points to your sprint and rinse and repeat. Go again. Start planning out your next week. So anyways, this is part 2 of talking about velocity and how you can measure team performance. Hope it's helpful for you guys. Let me know if you guys have any other suggestions on topics you want me to just spill my mind out on. Yeah. See you guys next time. Have a good one.